Did you know if your credit score is under 740, you're going to be paying more for everything that your credit score depends on, whether it's an apartment, whether it's your cell phone deposit, utilities, anything that looks at your credit score is going to hurt you if you have less than excellent credit. So if that's you, I have the perfect man to help you today. Sol Shapiro with Living Better 101 is here to help all of us learn how to get better credit and thereby reduce our costs for everything that looks at our credit score in life. So with that, welcome, Sol.
Hi, Holly. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, we're excited to have you. So why don't you tell us a little bit more detail of how this less than perfect credit score can harm us in life and cost us more?
Well, everything you do as a consumer depends on good credit. Everything you buy, in essence, costs more if you have poor credit. You get credit cards that have a higher interest rate, credit cards that might have an annual deposit that you normally wouldn't have to pay if you had good credit, or a higher annual fee. Everything you go about doing, you go to get a car rental, you pay more if you don't have a credit card. Of course, buying a home, we know, depends on that. And it costs you significantly more between poor credit and excellent credit.
Wow, okay. Why don't you tell us what some of the biggest misunderstandings consumers have about their credit history?
Well, I'd say probably the first one is that people think that the mistakes they've made on credit automatically disappear, and that's not the case. Most things you do wrong with credit stay on your credit for at least 7 years, sometimes longer. And those things can hurt you because even if you had, let's say, a bill with one company, if you didn't pay it in full and it gets sold to another company, that company can continue reporting against you as well. So this can last a really long time. It's worse if if you've had something like a foreclosure or a repossession on a car. Those things tend to haunt you for a lot longer than what you thought it would be.
I've heard of advertisements and companies of people saying they can clean up your credit and fix your credit. Do those things ever go away completely, or what's that about?
So, credit repair has a bad connotation. My company helps people with credit education and credit restoration. And the difference is that if you have something that can't be verified on your credit, it can be deleted. And we've seen everything from a late payment that shouldn't be reported, deleted from your credit, to even something as serious as bankruptcy. If it can't be verified, can be deleted from your credit report if it's not accurately reported by the right party to the credit bureaus. Those things can be deleted legally if you know how to do that and you work with the consumers and the credit bureaus with what they're legally allowed to report and what they must verify to continue reporting against you.
Interesting. Okay. Can you tell us about any personal experiences related to credit that you've had?
I can tell you exactly what happened to me personally. I had a car repossessed many years ago, and I thought that the bank was working with me, and I called to report my stolen car, and the police knew right where my car was, and it didn't take very long to figure out what had happened. And it took me many years to overcome that. And the difference is I knew someone at a car dealership where I was able to get a car, but I paid double digit interest rates to get that car. So that new car cost me a tremendous amount of money compared to the car that I almost had paid off. I also learned that you don't get credit for what you've already paid. I mean, whatever you owed when you had the car, you owe when you lose the car. And that was a really tough lesson to learn. But the other side of that is once I did get the mistakes off of my credit and got the things that couldn't be verified off of my credit, I graduated from this program and literally was able to go into the car lot and pick out the car I wanted. And There was no interest charge, and it was a very good day for me. Very good day to be able to pick up, what you want on a car lot instead of being told what you're going to pay.
How wonderful. I'm so sorry that you experienced that, but what a great springboard that's been to help you help other people through the situation, because you've experienced it yourself and you know what it's like. All right, switching gears a little, how often should you check your credit report?
So you're allowed to see your credit report free once a year, although right now you can see it even more often than that. The reality is I teach consumers to check their credit once a month. And I show them a program where they can look it up for themselves, very small effort, and just verify what's being reported on them, because you don't want to wait till you actually need to buy something to see that there's a mistake that you weren't expecting on your credit, and that's going to cost you when you go to apply for something.
Oh yeah, and it takes a while to clean it up, right? It's not like you just make a call and it's gone that day. It takes, I've heard it can be a nightmare from some of my clients. So, and why don't you tell us what people can do to improve their credit?
So one of the things that anybody can do is, and this seems so simple, but you have to pay your bills on time. You should pay more than the minimum. I realize a lot of people have struggled this year, but try to pay a little bit more than what you're required to pay. I'll also say, don't pay everything that you owe. That may seem silly from my perspective. I had to learn that in order to build better credit, I actually had to pay interest for a while and show that I could be a good consumer and use my credit, but use it responsibly. So pay your bills on time is really important, and pay more than the minimum.
Got it. How many mistakes are reported nationwide on credit reports? I'm just curious. Is that something that happens very often?
It happens. There are about 220 million consumer credit reports out there. It happens somewhere between 20 and 33% of consumers have found errors on their credit, depending on which source you use. So if you think about that, that means there are millions of mistakes out there on people's credit. And that ranges from your name completely misspelled, an address you don't recognize, an account that you've never seen before. All of those things can harm you if they're affecting your credit score.
Wow, that's a lot of mistakes, but it's understandable when, especially in the olden days when everything was handwritten, people probably misread lots of people's handwriting on credit applications and things like that.
If you think about it, when I look at someone's credit report, I see things that it makes me feel like it's all somebody's typing this in, and they're always in a hurry, because some of the mistakes I see are just ridiculous. You know how to spell your name, so how does your name get misspelled on your credit report? But that does affect who's reporting you, and possibly that account may be, it could be deleted if it's affecting you negatively, and we help with that. It's
Nice.
very odd to see the kind of, like, we haven't made any progress since the days of computers, it seems to me.
Yeah, my maiden name is Jager, Jager. And on my credit report for a long time, it says also Jagar, Jagar. I'm like, okay, someone somewhere typed my name in wrong or made an account with that. It did impact me negatively. I just laughed that it was a misspelling that was following me for a long time. But yeah. So how long are negative items reported on credit?
So I'm going to say it's going to be 7 years from the time that account was first listed. So I'll give you an example. If it's just let's say a foreclosure charge off, those are different times. Obviously, foreclosure is going to be rare, but if you didn't pay for your home, it's going to be listed for at least 7 years from the date you first went delinquent.
Mm-hmm.
A charge off is actually even longer, 7 years and another 180 days since you first stop paying your bill. The same with collection accounts. Bankruptcy is going to appear for at least 10 years from the date it was filed. Even inquiring about your credit report, somebody runs your credit to authorize a purchase, that's going to last on your credit report for 2 years. Defaulted student loans, private bank loans will last at least 7 years from you first going delinquent, but federal loans will go at least 7 years or until the loan is brought current. So I have a division that deals with that under Ed Solutions for federal loans. That can be pretty punitive, and I still see that on a regular basis. At least once a month, I have someone ask for help in that area.
Wow. Okay, that's some good overview there. What is the optimum percent of credit card debt for maintaining high credit scores? What is that?
So to get the best credit score, you want to have a balance on the credit that you have available, somewhere between 10 and 25% of your available limit. So if you have $1,000 credit card, I like to keep it below 250 when the statement is run. So you may use it throughout the month. Sometimes I'll do that and I'll pay down my bill before the statement comes out so that my bill is always below 25%, ideally between 10 and 25% to get a higher score of what you're allowed to borrow.
I'm just laughing at myself here because I have one credit card that I think we max out almost every month since we're house flippers, and we'll max it out to like 35,000. I mean, it's unusual because it's used for a business, but it's a personal credit card. I'm like, oh, that is not helping me, is it?
That's true. So I use that as an example where I do help people that are also in business. I'll help them separate their business credit from their personal credit. But even because of the way you do business and you use a lot of credit, you're paying the same amount. I learned this the hard way also because I saw how it affected my score. But I learned to pay, and you typically probably pay most of the bill anyway. I learned to just pay it before the statement came out instead of 20 days later when I'd have to pay it anyway. And learning that was a really big, it took a few months to figure out how to get that right. But once I learned that, I realized I can use the credit responsibly and still have good credit scores because I'm not running a high balance once the statement is printed.
Interesting to know. We'll have to talk later about that. You can coach me.
You bet.
So will paying off my credit cards in full every month raise my credit score? I hear that question a lot. My guess is yes, but I don't know. What's the real answer?
It actually won't raise your score. It'll give you a good payment history, and your payment history is part of your credit score. Actually, it's about a third of your credit score is your payment history. But paying it in full means that you're showing that you're not showing that you can responsibly manage the money that's being borrowed. So actually carrying a balance when you need your score to go up can help your credit score.
Interesting. Okay, next question for you. How does raising your credit limit affect your credit score?
All right, so this is a two-edged sword. Raising your credit limit could be tempting for some people to use more of their credit and could get into some trouble. But if you're being responsible with credit and you get your credit score raised, then you're now using a smaller percentage of your available credit, and that's going to help your credit score. But typically, it's a positive thing as long as you're not maxing it out.
Yeah, I've definitely gone back to companies. As you know, I use lots of credit in my business. And ask them to raise it because I knew I wanted to keep the amount of credit I was using lower than the full balance. So I try to get it always higher than what I'm spending. But yeah, that's good to know. Okay, next one. Should I close the account if I'm no longer using a credit card?
Okay, great question, because the length of your credit history accounts for about 15% of your score. So when someone says, oh gosh, I'm no longer using that card, and they close that account, maybe they got an offer for a 0% card, so they're no longer using the card that they used to carry a balance on. you should still leave that card open in most cases. And I'll advise people, we look at each credit mix individually. Typically, you want to leave old accounts open so that the length of your credit history is longer and you get a better score as a result.
Yeah, I know many people think, oh, I'm not going to use it, just close it. I want it off. I don't want to see it anywhere on there. But yeah, it's a different thought process to think, oh, it's good. It helps, increases that score. Don't close them. Okay, what credit score is needed now for the best terms and lowest interest rate, which we may have alluded to with our opening statements, but go ahead and repeat that for us.
Yes, we did talk about that. And just so you know, credit score is run differently at an auto dealership versus your mortgage company. And so, and yet differently again when you're applying for a credit card. But ideally, you want your score to be above 740 to get the best offers. When we're below that, we'll find there's companies that'll give you credit. Many companies advertise even as low as the low 600s, but you're not getting the best terms. So you're going to pay more in the long run for that credit one way or another.
Okay, 740 is our goal at a minimum to get the best pricing and best terms. Okay. Now, when car shopping, how many inquiries can be added to your credit report?
Well, that's a great question, because I'll see someone go out shopping before becoming my client, and they'll go looking for a car. They'll spend all weekend looking at cars, maybe a couple of weekends. And if you don't stop it, a car dealer could run your credit on all three bureaus, and you could have that happen every car lot you visit. So I've seen someone come back from a weekend or two of shopping and they could have 24 credit inquiries, and that seriously draws down their credit score if they didn't end up buying a car.
So typically, is there a typical range as to how much it will impact their score with each run, or is it dependent?
Well, it could be as much as 10 points. It could be
wow.
pretty significant. And what I'll tell people when they graduate my program is I'll tell them exactly how to make sure what happens when I go to get a new car, which is they run my credit one time. At the end of making our deal, I tell them we make the deal based on this credit score. I know what my credit score is. Before I take the car, they run the credit without one bureau that I've authorized. And then, the bank, of course, will verify it when they put the financing through. So I typically will only have one inquiry in a weekend when I drive home with a car.
Smart. So still, while we're on the subject of cars still, how much extra does someone have to pay that has a low credit score when they're getting a car?
So we calculated this last year. We had people that had bought, let's say, a Toyota Camry in about the $25,000 range. They ended up with the low financing, with the 740 or 750 credit score, paid 1.9% interest. The same people with a 600 credit score ended up with a financing that will cost them over the life of that car loan an extra $9,600. They'll pay almost $10,000 more for the same car because they didn't get their credit in order before buying the car. That's a huge penalty.
Ooh, 10,000 extra, and it's not even for extra upgrades. It's just extra money to the car dealer. Ooh.
That's right. And with a home, it can be even worse. The difference in 3% between an excellent credit score and the minimum credit score to get financing could cost someone $250,000 over the life of their home loan, depending on how big a home they're buying. So it's a huge difference to get that in order before they go shopping.
Well, if that isn't enough to motivate someone, I don't know what is. Well, all that is so helpful. Do you have any additional information you'd like to share before we tell people how to reach you?
I'm going to say, ideally, check your credit before you need it. Get advice if you're concerned about something on there you don't recognize, or even if you've made a mistake and you feel like you no longer deserve to be punished for it. Let's take a look at it and see if it's something that maybe can't be verified. And if it can't be legally verified in the appropriate amount of time prescribed by law, then it could probably be deleted off their credit before they go shopping.
Awesome. Awesome. All this has been so helpful. Thank you so much for sharing. So if someone wants to work with you, tell us what that looks like, how you work with people, and then how they can reach you.
Okay. So when someone says, I think I need help with my credit, the first thing we do is we do a free analysis for them. If they tell us you referred them, I will look through their credit. I'll check their credit confidentially for $1 with a credit monitoring service. I'll do a complete analysis on what their opportunities are, and then I'll show them what the credit education is going to look like and what their participation is, because it's a two-way street. I need them to get educated up to speed on what we're trying to teach so that they don't become customers for life. I really want them to learn what went wrong and how to save themselves for the future. For reaching me, I tell people you can reach me at 844-3911 is my office, or email me, Solomon, SOLOMON, at livingbetter101.com.
Great. And that's a website also that people can check out, livingbetter101.com.
Yeah, and there's plenty of consumer testimonials about success stories there, and educational materials we posted for our clients to read about. And I think people will find it pretty interesting if they're looking to get better credit in the future. It's a good place to start.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all this. It's been very informative and insightful, and appreciate your time. And those of you who are watching, reach out to Sol to get some more help if your credit score could use some help, and if you'd like to be paying less for the goods and services that you're using credit for. Thank you so much, Sol. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.